second. And welcome. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this eCoustics live stream where we're here to talk about the very best from CES 2026, held last week from January 6th through the 9th in Las Vegas. That's the place where the consumer electronics world comes together to showcase their latest innovations and offer a sneak peek at the products that are expected to come out this year. We got a first look at the new flagship 2026 TVs, got briefed on the new TV technology, and heard some amazing headphones and speakers and plenty more, which, if you can believe it or not, priced from $130 to $130,000.
That's just the headphones.
Just the headphones. Now that we're back from Las Vegas, we got plenty on our minds. But we're also here to answer your questions. We'll be monitoring the chat, so feel free to ask, and we'll do our best to answer everyone's questions, of course, while sharing what was the best of CES. So if you're here to upgrade your digital entertainment lifestyle, you've come to the right place. Now, let's get through the introductions. I'm Brian Mitchell, your host and founder of eCoustics.com. And as you can see, I'm joined by my team of rock stars who spent a fearless week in Las Vegas, even missed a coffee after 20 years of having daily coffee.
That happened.
That
You're
happened.
A slave driver, Brian. You're a slave driver.
It was a tough week, but yeah, let me introduce our editor at large, Chris Boylan. Hey, Chris.
Hello. What's up, guys? Happy to be home. Vegas is fun, but in small doses.
And our senior news correspondent, Robert Silva.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Robert. And always behind the glass, our podcast producer, Mitchapalooza Anderson.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Mitch will have a keen eye on the comments, so let them come as you wish. But let's kick things off as kind of what was different about this year's CES, and kind of give people a little background on the show, and kind of let Chris kind of maybe kick us off on this year's CES.
Yeah. So, I mean, front and center was the robots and AI. LG even had a robot that could do laundry. A limited amount. It could fold. It could put things. They even showed him baking a croissant. It's like, I don't think it's quite there yet, but it made for a pretty effective demo. But with robots and AI in center stage, audio and video and the stuff that we love might have taken a little bit of a back seat. But it was nice, at least in the main press conferences, both Hisense and LG featured TVs this year. So they're talking about TV technology and how important it is for them and all the advances they've made in picture quality, in AI, usability, etc. But was surprising to me a little bit was that high-end audio was not easy to find. Normally, the Venetian Hotel has got suites just packed with audio vendors. Right. And this year, it was a little bit of a ghost town. We didn't see that many high-end audio vendors. What we did see was really great sounding. But I felt like that was a little bit light this year.
But that's been the trend for a number of years. Like the audio from CES has been fading, but kind of like you said, the people or the companies that do show up are really bringing their A game.
Yeah.
And you hear some amazing stuff. Robert, just some quick thoughts on this year's CES as opposed to the countless other ones that you've been to.
Well, logistically, it was a little different because this was the first year that Samsung actually did not have a major booth in the central hall, and they moved everything to the Wynn. So they were off site basically, and they had a great exhibit, but they just did everything off site at the Wynn, and which made it logistically a little bit more complicated in the sense that you have to travel off site to get there. And there was a lot of other things off site. And also in the convention center itself, South Halls is 2 stories, and they usually have both stories full of exhibits. This year, the top floor was empty, and the first floor was where they had all the South Hall exhibits.
Mm.
Kind
So you
of-
think
I'd say, well,
yeah.
logistically, it was a little easier to get around this year for some reason. I don't know why. It wasn't quite as
that's
much
true,
traffic.
yeah.
Maybe with the loop, you know, the muskmobiles going through the tunnels to get
Yeah.
to the various parts of the city. That probably helped, but wasn't sitting in traffic as much this year as we have in the past. So that was a plus.
Right.
Yeah, I used the loop quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about some of the major themes, and I think we're going to start off with audio. And on the audio side, somehow we've been surprised 2 years in a row by something that resembles a soundbar, but it's not a soundbar.
Don't call it a soundbar.
And if you followed our coverage last year, that's where we discovered the Canvas HiFi, all-in-one speaker integrated TV unit. And this year they have added it back to something they're calling the Canvas HiFi Frame.
I think it's called the Frame HiFi.
The Frame HiFi.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pull up that picture here. There we go.
Oh, there we go.
And it's an all-in-one. Now it's an all-in-one unit where the speaker is that bottom panel that houses everything. It's got this amazing Bach 3D technology that just makes it sound like there's sound coming from where there are no speakers, is the best way I can describe this. And
right.
no,
And on
Chris,
top is the Samsung The Frame, which is one of their most popular TVs and one of their lowest performing in terms of picture quality, sadly. It is really designed to look like artwork, and it does that amazingly well. But with the matte screen and edge lighting, it isn't Samsung's top performing TV. So it's for people who really want a lifestyle looking TV. And if you add on the frame, which here it's kind of in a boring little cloth cover, they have some really nice like wood slatted options that look much more artistic. But it's a nice little one-piece solution for people who don't want a big imposing gray rectangle dominating their living room all day.
Yeah, and it does come with the standard TV mount integration, which will work with any TV from 55 inches to 85 inches. You just don't get the perfectly flush mount wraparound frame, but you essentially get the same thing. So Canvas HiFi, what'd you say it was called, Chris? The HiFi Frame?
I think it's called the HiFi Frame, but it actually doesn't come with the TV, but it is, you buy the TV separately. But the mounting bracket is optimally sized exactly for the frame. So it's pretty easy to put together. And like you can see in the picture, it looks pretty seamless. But it wasn't my favorite non-sound bar at the show.
Okay, I think I might know what that is. Is it going to be this one?
Yes, what I call lovingly the Hawaiian soundbar, the Muso Hekla, which is not Hawaiian, and it's not actually a soundbar. This is from Focal, and it's a powered wireless speaker that does have an HDMI eARC port, so it connects to a TV. And I think you would agree, if hearing the demo, it did a really, really good job creating a dome of sound, full immersive surround sound, sound stage without rear speakers. It does have up-firing drivers, side-firing drivers, and they have their own, I think it's called Sphere, Movie Sphere, Music Sphere, that works well, not just in one tiny little sweet spot like on the Canvas, but pretty much all over the room. So I normally, I kind of poo-poo soundbars that don't have rear speakers, but since this isn't a soundbar, it's fine. And it actually did a really good job without the need to put any additional speakers in there. So Muso is a brand that Naim had been using and now Focal is going to use because they are sister companies. And Hekla is actually, where's the volcano? What country is it? Is it Finland? Is it Norway?
It's supposed to be Iceland, right?
Iceland.
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
So it's an
Iceland
Icelandic
has volcanoes.
volcano, Hekla. So anyway, whatever they call it, it's a great sounding speaker. It worked well with music and with TV. Dolby Atmos sounded great on it, and $3,600. So it's a little on the high side, but it's not the most expensive speaker of its kind that we've seen for sure.
Right. Yeah, this one was something special. Like you go in, you look at it, you're like, oh, it's another soundbar. But
Don't call it a
what I,
soundbar.
oh yeah, I can't call it a soundbar. But most surprising to me is you sit off center and you still get the effect. It's
Yeah.
not locked into a single sweet spot,
Right.
which I really haven't heard before in another product. But just deep, rich sound, surprisingly good bass. You don't need a subwoofer. You can add one. I think there's an option, I think, for 2 subwoofers on the back, if I remember. So this one
It didn't need
was-
one though. It's
Yeah,
sitting
it
on top
didn't.
of that console, which was just furniture that they found in the room.
Right.
Of course, a couple of us thought those little green boxes were subwoofers, but nope, they were just they were just seats that came in the room. They weren't vibrating, I promise. It
Right.
really sounded like it had a sub-active, and it does get down, maybe not to the ultimate lowest octave, but it's room shaking, and it's plenty of heft for a one-piece speaker. So well done to Focal.
Yep. And let me see. I have some other audio pictures that I want to get through that I'm going to flub a little bit while we'll do this live stream. But also in the same room, I got to hear this little streamer, kind of streamer, Focal Unity CI-102. Now this is an all-in-one streamer, really
Amplifier too, right?
underrated. What was that?
Amplifier, right? It's a powered network.
It's
streamer.
powered, powered
Yeah.
streamer network
okay.
amplifier that does 150 watts per channel, does all your Spotify Connect, Qobuz Connect, Tidal Connect, links up to multi-room, multi-zone, just a really kind of under the radar streaming amplifier that's up against all the Helios products, all the Blue Sound products, WIM. But
Don't
this
forget
one,
Sonos.
and Sonos, right? This one really stood out. It's $1,800, so it's a little bit on the pricier end for.
Actually, for Focal, it's not too bad.
There it is, the CI-Uniti 102. And if you're familiar with name products, I mean, they don't really make anything that's low quality. Everything is premium, luxury, really well done. Most of their stuff is a lot more expensive, but this is your entryway. Got a really slick app and really impressed. I wasn't expecting this, but this was one of the extra treats of CES that I got to take a look at. I know we have some more audio to talk about. Let's flip this onto the screen.
Sounds sweet.
Sound Suite,
Yes.
LG Sound Suite.
So the H7, which is pictured there,
Right.
is the first soundbar to include Dolby Atmos Flex Connect. And what makes that special is that it's a fully wireless connection, integrates with up to 4 speakers, and including up firing speakers, front firing, side firing, etc., to do an immersive surround sound without having any wires anywhere in the room. There's 2 ways you can do it. Either the TV is the Flex Connect leader, is what they call it, like a host, and it can connect to 4 speakers plus a subwoofer. Or you can connect a standard HDMI eARC cable to the soundbar, and then the soundbar is 5.1.3 on its own, 5 surround channels, 1 subwoofer, sort of, and 3 height channels. But then when you connect it to the M7 speakers in the back, you get what they're calling 13.1.7 channel surround sound. Now, I'll believe it when I hear it and I run the test patterns through it.
We did hear it.
No. I mean, when I run like a nice Dolby Atmos test pattern to see which of those speakers are independently addressable, because I guarantee it's not 13.1.7, but it did create a really immersive sound. It was very impressive. About $999 for the subwoofer, $249 for the smaller speakers, $399 for the larger ones, and I think $599 for the sub. So it can work with non-LG TVs.
Yeah.
But if you use it with an LG TV, then you get the TV can be used as a center channel, and you get the ability to connect the TV directly to the wireless speakers. It does not need the soundbar. If you're using it with a non-LG TV, then you do have to connect an HDMI ARC cable to the soundbar, and then the soundbar broadcasts out to all the other speakers. So it was good. It was a nice update.
Yeah. And Yeah, I mean, it's certainly an upgrade over TV sound. Like that was the biggest
Oh,
Blew it
when
away,
they
yeah.
switched over from TV sound to this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like
I
you
thought it
didn't-
sounded better than the best sounding LG soundbar I've heard, system.
In the past.
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, so another soundbar. We are in this soundbar theme of amazing soundbar solutions, but we do have some other products to talk about. SVS was there with.
That's not a soundbar.
It's not a soundbar, but they do have a new soundbar. So let's get to
Yes.
that.
Yes,
SVS surprised everybody with a brand new, first ever soundbar.
Right.
Pretty unique. They did a few things different. I'll let Chris tell you about it.
Yeah, I love SVS, but I hate SVS because they never give us a heads up on what's coming. We find out when everybody else does. There's no, like, a
Yeah.
lot of the vendors will send us stuff in advance and say, shh, don't tell anyone. But
Yeah.
SVS just like, boom, here it is. This is what we got.
Yeah.
So we have to scramble to get to the booth and say hello to everybody and check
Yeah.
out the products. So
Yep.
this year, the SVS Revolution soundbar is what you see under the table, under the TV there. It is kind of a different approach to most companies. They don't try to sell the soundbar on its own. They don't even try to make it produce low bass because they know when you get it, you're getting it with the sub. Sub is part of the package. It's prepared. So you just take it out of the box, boom, it works. And it's a 3x3-way system. So each one of the speakers, the left, the right, and the front center channel are all 3-way speakers with plenty of power. So instead of doing up-facing, side-facing, trying to do some kind of bouncy surround like most companies do, they decided to focus on sound quality first. And they do use Dolby Atmos virtualization to create height channels because they don't have any upfiring speakers whatsoever. They don't have the option to add ceiling speakers, which would be nice, but really, honestly, no soundbars do that. So there's two bundles. There's one that comes with the sub, one that comes with rear speakers. And we did a demo with the speakers set up, and it sounded great, but obviously the hall was very loud, and they had this in the open, right out in the show floor. But it did a pretty good job of emulating or simulating high channels. So you did get a little bit of that dome of sound, but frankly, for me, I always prefer to have even upfiring speakers because they can bounce off the wall and give you some real sound coming from above.
Right.
But it's only, I think, $1,500 for the bar and the sub, and
Around
$1,800 if it comes with the rear speakers. And for the bass heads out there, you know who you are. You can add a second subwoofer.
Yeah.
And SVS is known for their subwoofers because they just put out really low bass, very precise. I think even this one goes down to 20 hertz or near it. And yeah, overall, it's a nice system. I think it's going to be available a little later in the year, probably around June.
I think it's going to have the best bass of any soundbar. That's my early optimal view of it. Because most of the subwoofers you buy that come with a companion soundbar,
they're bad.
Bad.
Yes.
Simply
bad.
Simply bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was not
for
bad.
me.
This was
For
very
me,
not bad.
for me, the selling point is it comes with an SVS subwoofer.
Exactly.
Yep. And it's not that big. It's actually kind of small compared to their new one. Their PB 3000 Revolution. You got to add Revolution in because that's the new model. They have PB 3000, the old model. But this is a new one, comes ported, comes sealed. And there's a new micro version that's going to replace the new micro one that Mitch got to review last year. It's actually going to go down to 20 hertz. And SVS is now claiming that every one of their subs will hit 20 hertz, even their smallest
cube
SVS. They're calling it 3000 micro. Hey, Mitch, I know you got a micro.
I do. I got the 3000 micro at the upstairs right now with the Re-Evolution towers. And I love that setup. I'm actually just powering the whole thing too with the SVS sound base. And SVS cables. It's a full SVS rig.
Nice.
But is the soundbar coming with the Micro 3000?
No,
a
no,
different
that's
sub.
going to be a
Oh, it's a
separate-
matched sub to the
Correct.
soundbar. Okay, gotcha. But I'm
Yeah.
excited for that one. That is going to be. I get asked about like soundbar recommendations quite a bit, and so that's going to be an easy one for me. That's really cool to see. I didn't know they were doing that. All right, I'm
Yeah.
going back. Bye bye.
Neither did we. Back to your cave. So yeah, we didn't know it was coming either. But also, some have commented a little expensive. $1,800 for a full surround soundbar system. It isn't actually that expensive. Sony, LG, Samsung all have options. Sonos as well all have options that are much more than that. Like closer to $3,000 when you get in all in for the sub, the soundbar, and the rear speakers. So I think it's a pretty decent price point, particularly considering the music focus that SVS has always had. They're really musical,
Right.
And I think it's going to be a popular product for them.
And I gave people a hint at this. Onkyo was the first to announce a new receiver line in 2020.
The only to announce.
The only to announce. So so 2026 might be the year of new AV receivers. But these were here in concept form. So we didn't get a whole lot of information, but we did learn there's going to be 4 subwoofer outputs, and they're going to be kind of based on the previous series with upgraded DAC,
upgraded DSP, and DAC.
Upgraded DSP. So we're excited to test these out, and we like the new design. Looks a little different.
Yeah.
And
and it's going to go. There's a new one in the line. There used to be the 30, 50, 70. Now there's a 31, 51, 61, and 71. We're not sure which, but at least one is going to get 6 subwoofer outputs. They told us that very definitively. And for the first time, Onkyo products are going to have the option to upgrade to DRAC ART, active room treatment. And unlike Denon Marantz and some other brands, they do give you the basic version of DRAC for free in the receiver, right? So you get DRAC Live in
technically
all of them.
for free. Somehow you're paying for it.
Well,
somehow
you're paying for it in the list price. Hey, they still come below most of the competition for the features that they have, right? Like the RZ51, I think is 9-channel upgradable to 11-channel. But I was surprised that a company would have a new receiver at CES, let alone 4 of them. Plus, wait, there's more. A preamp processor, which they haven't done in a long time, and 2 multi-channel power amps, a 4 and 11-channel power amp. So Onkyo has changed hands a couple of times. I think Gentex is the current owner. Over the past year and a half, Pioneer, which was part of that same family, did exit the AV receiver market entirely. They're only in car audio now. But it looks like Onkyo and Integra, hopefully Integra, I'm assuming we're going to hear more about Integra at the CES show later this year. But Onkyo, it looks like they're putting a lot of resources into designing a whole new industrial design, upgraded DAC, upgraded DSP, the same high quality amplification and heat sinks that we've seen on previous models. That whole new faceplate, I love it, because on the TX-RZ30, which I just finished reviewing a couple of months ago, there's a bunch of these tiny little input buttons on the front panel that are so small you can't read what they are, at least not at my age. And in this version, input is a simple, knob, and you get all the display information you need right on the screen. So I think you can probably even do a complete setup without connecting it to a TV. Generally, you have to have the TV connected to do things like calibration. So I'm looking forward to seeing them. Probably not this year or late this year. I'm guessing they might actually be early 2027 introductions.
Yeah, it might be a little wait on these. So that was something. But also in the same company, their sister brand Klipsch surprised a lot of people with these powered the Sevens II. These are the 2nd generation wireless powered speaker. Pretty much everyone that heard them just said, "How could I get a pair?" They really wowed us at the demo. Just incredibly deep bass for their size, that kind of trademark high frequency Klipsch sound. $2,000.
And they're all already available. It said add to cart.
So that
I was surprised how well the Sevens sounded. Just a great improvement.
Yeah, well, it's a completely redesigned front baffle that
Yeah.
handles the diffraction of sound, so you don't get as
Right.
much of the conical effect that happens when you do this.
Right.
And it really made a difference. It was more of a point source kind of sound. The imaging was improved over a lot of the Klipsch horn speakers I've heard in the past. And it's got a robust set of inputs and outputs, including HDMI. You could actually connect it directly to a TV if you wanted to. Like if you don't have the space for a soundbar or don't care for soundbars, it's got
And there's a phono. I can see Mitch
Mitch is
highlighting the
phono
phono
input. Yep, it can
phono
accept the
inputs.
turntable directly. And I think
It's
the
all-
only difference, well, not the only difference, but one difference between the 5, 7, and 9, the 7 and 9 can be fully wireless. You don't need a dongle cable, like umbilical cord between the two speakers, but the 5, the lower end one, less expensive, smaller one, does have an XLR type cable between the left and the right channels. And there, of course, the larger drivers, more sound output, more extended bass as you go up the line.
Also,
oh yeah.
oh,
Go ahead.
I was going to say also another thing to point out is that a lot of the electronic side and audio tuning side, they're partnering with Onkyo.
Yep. That's a
So-
big
Yes,
part
their
of the
Onkyo
change.
amplification built in for the first time this
Yeah.
year. That was one of the big improvements from the original 7s to the 7s Mark II.
Yeah, real quickly, Mitch, if you can pull up the webpage again, there are 2 other models in the line, a smaller one called the 5s II and a
Yeah.
larger one called the 9s II.
Yeah.
We did get to hear those as well. And the big feature
Yeah.
that you'll see on the webpage is these do Dolby Atmos virtualization.
Right, just
so
from a single pair of speakers.
So there they are.
Wow.
The 5s, the smaller ones, $13.99. The 9s go up to $23.99 a pair, and they come in extra colors. But yeah, so that's kind of unique. And the 9s have XLR inputs. That's unique on a bookshelf powered speaker for the home. Usually you get that in a professional setup.
Yep.
Right.
But yeah, Klipsch did an amazing job. I think these are going to be very popular speakers, and looks like you can order them now. Any other thoughts as we move on?
I will say Klipsch also showed off in the back room where those receivers were. There was new reference speakers that looked beautiful, but they were not on active display, and they didn't have dates of when they're going to be available or exact pricing. So we didn't really, they weren't really eligible for a best in show kind of award because they're just nice, beautiful boxes.
Right. Well, I'm going to shrink this down to some smaller, beautiful boxes.
Yeah.
Which I think Samsung surprised everybody with these.
Yeah.
These don't even look. These are more art than speakers, I think, and they're wireless speakers. You can use them as pairs. You can use them with a Dolby Atmos setup. You can connect up to 10, I think, together, Chris.
You can connect up to 10 in a house for whole home audio and up to 5 in a home theater type system where they're all playing together. The smaller ones are just a two-way driver, two drivers facing forward. The larger ones they have side and top facing drivers. So a little bit like Sonos Era 300 in that it's kind of one box. It can do a Dolby Atmos thing because it's sending sound in all directions. But if you link them together in a home theater setup, then you can get multi-channel immersive sound with sound coming from above and from the top. And some people might have the old perception of Samsung as just being a TV and appliance company, but they did acquire Harman years ago, and Harman International and Harman Kardon are known for their sound quality, and their labs in California, anechoic chambers, they're pretty good at speaker design. So they're leveraging every last bit of expertise Harman has in audio to make these speakers. Do you have the model numbers, Brian?
It's the Music Studio 7 is the bigger ones on the bottom, and the Music Studio 5 are the ones on top, which and
I want to say they might be $250 and $399. Is that correct? Or is it $250 and $499?
$499, I think, is the bigger ones, $499.
Right.
But the other interesting thing about the bigger ones is they have drivers on all sides, 3 sides.
Yeah.
So up firing,
side firing, front firing.
Front firing.
And a Spotify play button for those who
Yeah.
care about such things. And apparently there's a few 100 million people that do care about such things.
Right.
Spotify is ubiquitous, as they say.
Right.
So once you set it up and you define your
Yeah.
account, you can
Yeah.
basically press play on the top of one of these speakers, and it'll go directly to your playlist or last
Right.
song, etc.
Yeah, and I want to give a
cool.
quick shout out to Edifier. They kind of surprised us with these kind of versatile, they call them cross scenario. Their bookshelf, their stand mount, their desktop. They have all the connections. They have HDMI, you can hook them up to your TV, optical, a lot
Subwoofer
of inputs,
output.
subwoofer output,
Mhm.
very affordable, $369, and really good value that we really.
Yeah, these are the M90s, right?
Yeah, these are the M90s.
Yeah,
Sorry about
that's
that.
what I thought.
Yeah, I
Edifier
remember
M90s.
Edifier being in, I think it was the North Hall in this tiny little booth 20
Yeah.
years ago. And it was founded by a bunch of audiophiles that wanted to do their own thing and create high value products. And,
Mm.
20 years later, they had a nice sized booth with tons
Right.
of products, integrated one-piece speakers. These are one of the smaller ones, but they had even smaller. They have some that are dedicated to gaming. Pretty robust selection of products, and I was pretty impressed by the sound. So good stuff.
Yeah, and then only I got to see these because I snuck out to the Cosmopolitan Hotel where Cambridge Audio was hiding out,
Okay.
and got to hear. This is Cambridge Audio's first active speaker, I believe, or first speaker. They do make other passive speakers, but these, I
And other
think,
powered speakers, but
these are active.
Right.
These are active speakers. The smaller one is tiny. I mean, like desktop size tiny. The bigger one is probably just a tiny bit bigger than the smallish Klipsch one. So it's not that big either, but it does 400 watts per speaker.
Right.
It's separating. You can't see it in the photo, but there's a down firing woofer. There's side firing, side passive woofer. Passive
radiator?
woofers,
Passive radiator.
passive radiators, and just tremendous amounts of bass with these speakers. If you followed or if you have listened to the Brane speaker, who have come out with some amazing low bass, kind of reminded me a little bit of how low they can get some of these small speakers to produce. But they
And we
also
did see a
have
new Brane.
Yeah, we did see a new
Speaking of
Brane too.
Wow.
Yep.
So let me see if I have that one. There's the
The
new
big Brane.
The big Brane. Well, it's called the Party Pro. It's
I
called the
know, I
Party
call it
Pro.
the big Brane. Check out the big Brane on Brad. This was not a fully finished prototype, but it's going to look like this. But it is.
Hey, John. Hey, John.
Hey, John Higgins is here. Hey, John Higgins in the house. Welcome, John.
Just quickly, since we got a comment about the Cambridge Audio, all the inputs on the back, USB-C, they do WiSA connectivity between the two to keep them wireless, so don't have to tether them. Just all the inputs. I believe there's a phone on there, so Mitch will be happy about that. But really watch out for these speakers. I preferred the larger one of the three, but the middle-sized one was unbelievable amounts of bass for the size. But yeah, hey John, let's switch back over to the Party Pro, the Brane.
Yeah,
Party
I mean,
Pro.
you were there with me, and we did get to hear a demo of the technology. I mean, these Brane guys, they're pretty smart. I guess that's what the Brane's for. And for the size of the cabinet, the amount of low bass these things put out is crazy. And what they had on display was one of these drivers in a comparably sized cabinet. So it had about the same cabinet volume. And even in the other room, I mean, the whole suite was shaking. They basically synced it up with the standard Brane wireless speaker. And yeah, very impressive. I mean, down to the lowest octave. So whatever they're doing, whatever black magic they're employing, they are hitting some serious bass notes. And when this thing comes out, I think it's going to be very popular.
Yeah, I think it's going to change the game on party speakers, because I never heard anything at this size produce
that much
this
bass.
amount of bass.
Yeah.
And it's even going to have the option to do subwoofer only mode, which will be
Oh, wow.
interesting.
Oh, right. That's right. I saw
If
that.
it can be used in a home theater environment or used with another Brane, I'm not
Now,
sure.
do you remember what size driver that was on the side?
It was something oval. I don't know if they have it. There's the original
That's
The
the
Brane,
original
X.
brain.
the Brane
Um,
X.
But in terms
And-
of the dimensions, it's something you can carry around. The new one even
Oh, the new
might
one
weigh-
should be
might weigh 20 pounds or something. I mean, it's not
Right.
it's not light. You know,
right.
that's a
It
big
should have
horse coil,
some
it's a
kind
big
of
driver.
handle that will let you move it around.
Yeah.
But
So it is truly a portable speaker. It's battery powered, can be plugged
Yep.
in also. And yeah, looking forward to hearing this when it's final.
So, yeah, that's a amazing, an incredible innovation. Oh, you were asking me about the driver size. It's their unique. They kind of showed us the demo. I don't have the picture of it up right now, but they have I think it's oval-ish, like their Brane is, like the Brane X is, but it's not like a typical round 10-inch subwoofer. It's something a little more oval shape from my memory.
Ooh.
But we did see some expensive headphones.
Transitioning to headphones, are we?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's
Okay.
switch over to headphones.
So
Yeah.
we're going to be talking a little bit more about this later, but Loewe is coming back to the US with their products, the German high-end company, including TVs. They have some gorgeous TVs we'll talk about soon. And these headphones, the Leos, and Leo is available in Europe today for about €12.99, coming to the US soon for maybe up to $1,800, depending on tariffs and depending on what the final pricing is. But what we saw earlier was the Ice Diamond version, which has, I think, 456 actual diamonds. It's a partnership with Jones & Co. and it sells for,
Jacob
wait
and
for
Co.
it, Jacob & Co.
Co.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Jacob & Co. It sells for $130,000.
Maybe 135,000. I don't know. Something close.
Maybe it's
We haven't got-
135,000. You know what? How much for cash? And they have a sapphire version, rose gold and sapphire, which is 115,000. So you're probably right. Maybe it's 135. But yeah, that's a little extreme. But the cool thing about the headphones that are designed by this guy, HiFi Bear Clark, is he makes his products, whether it's the over-ear like this or the in-ear that we're going to talk about, like a Swiss watch. There's no sonic welds. There's no excessive use of glue. If you need to replace the battery on the in-ears, he can take the whole thing apart. It's got gaskets and screws, replace the battery, put it back in and send it back to you. I love that because most of the headphones that we're using today, the in-ears, are going to be spent in like 3 or 4 years when the battery dies. What are you going to do with them? You have to throw them away. That's terrible. So with these, for 1,800, if the battery, well, are these wired or wireless?
These are wireless.
too?
Yeah.
So
wireless.
this one will have a battery as well. So if you need to replace the battery, you can just send it back to the company and they'll replace the battery for hopefully a reasonable fee. But they also sounded amazing. I mean, you know, they sounded great. Excellent isolation, good noise cancellation. I think they had a wired option via USB cable.
I think so.
And so, yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, Mitch, while you're there, can you pull up the website for T10 Bespoke? Because that's the next micro true wireless. Oh, it's not on this website. It's
T10 Bespoke. Just do a search on Google, you find it.
And this is
that was it. Yeah, the picture of it.
This is that's one of them. I don't have a good picture of the earbuds themselves, but this is just the charging case.
But this is just one of like
one of many.
20 versions of the charging case. They're technically Klipsch drivers, Klipsch Sony partnership on the drivers, and I think there were only like 12,000 left in the world, and Bear Clark bought them all. And he put together these, he calls them in-ear computers because they're so powerful, and they had amazing bass, but not that, you know, like Beats type bass that like was excessive. Very natural. Unfortunately, Brian's ears were a little bit too large for his largest tip. Here are some of the versions. These ones start at 3,000, but they also go up to like 108,000 for the Harrods version. But this guy is the character, this Bear Clark, the designer, and he loves reusability. He loves flash, but in terms of the sound and the design, they're very ergonomically pleasing. Like they just feel good. They operate nicely. And again, you need a new battery, you need a new part. The driver fails, you can take the whole thing apart, replace it, and send it back to you. So $3,000 for a pair of headphones or in-ear might sound expensive, but if it's the last pair of in-ear headphones you ever have to buy, maybe not so bad.
Yeah, you don't get that kind of
And it
design
looks
from
good.
from
And
anybody.
yeah, I mean, it looks amazing.
So yeah, speaking of the headphones, though, we were also surprised by Asus, I think is how you say it, and HiFiMAN with a gaming headphone, open back, planar magnetic gaming headphone for $299. It's going to come with all the gaming mic cable accessories that you need to plug into all your game consoles. But $299, partnership with HiFiMAN looks like they're onto something here. And I'm really curious how the gaming community takes into open back, because I don't think sound quality is the problem. It's just, is open back going to be of interest, or it's going to scare them because it lets sound go out of the headphone
Well,
itself?
I mean, if you think about a lot of gamers, it's not that social an activity typically. I mean, you're doing it in your own room, in your basement, in your dorm room, and you're interacting with other people via the game and via your headset.
Right.
But if there's a little bit of bleed out through the open back, I don't think that's a big deal. I mean, I think to get the kind of quality that you get out of these open back planar magnetic headphones, I don't think people are going to care that it's open back versus closed. They're going to go head to head up against the Maxwell 2s at about the same price point, which are also planar magnetic but closed back. So it's going to be interesting to see which of those two like rises to the top of gaming headphones for 2026.
Yeah, that's going to be quite the thing. And our last headphone is our most affordable one. This is from Earfun. It's actually their most expensive model ever.
Yeah, the first one over $99.
At $129. But this thing does pretty much all the features of a Sony or a Bose for one third to one half the price. Okay, maybe the noise canceling isn't up to the standard of what Sony has engineered, but I think everything else, sound quality, build quality, looks pretty good for $130.
Also, 100 hours of playback time. So you're not going to need to charge these too often. And even the longest flight around the world and back, you're still going to have battery left on these things.
So yeah, let's
Yeah, I
circle
just
back.
wanted to.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
to mention that there are a lot more headphones and earbuds at CES than I expected, and not only that, like I had a chance to visit Beyerdynamic, and they had their entire product line, and that was impressive to see their entire product line all in one spot. And then also, I visited Knowles and XM's, who make drivers. And so that was that there was, I would say there's a lot of growth opportunity for headphones at CES in terms of exhibiting.
Right. Just real quickly, do you remember one of the Beyerdynamic models that kind of stood out? Because they have, I don't know, 12, 15 different models.
Yeah, I think that, I had a chance to sample several, but I think it was the DT990 Pro, maybe.
Okay.
You know, their pro models sounded better than their consumer models. Like they have the Inventho consumer line, but I was much more impressed with their pro line. So, and they have their pro line. They have obviously the studio headphones. They have sort of gaming type headphones, and then they have the more musical stuff. And I just thought it was really impressive that they had brought their entire product line. I mean, they may have not brought something, but when I entered the room, there's this table full of, and I don't know if you have a photo of it or not. I sent you a photo, but their entire pro product line and their entire consumer line.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Do you remember if it was the 900 Pro X or the 1990?
No, I think it was the 900 Pro X.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
that one will
Made in
be
Germany.
on.
Yeah.
That will
It's
be
good.
on our radar when we go to NAMM
Yeah.
in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
to
yeah.
check those out. And yes, we did see
John
the
had a
new.
comment.
Yeah,
You
we
heard the
did
headphones,
see.
the Fender headphones?
Yeah, hey John, we did see the new Fender headphones.
Yeah.
They are kind of interesting. They're modular. You could take them apart and take out the battery and take out the. So interesting concept. Not, I don't know how well that's gonna play with consumers, but it's interesting. Thanks for reminding us of that, John. Anything else as we close out the audio category and move into TVs next?
Oh, gee whiz. Yeah, we haven't even done that.
We haven't touched on
There's some
TVs.
TVs. There was the projectors. I think we have a little
Yeah,
bit to talk
TVs,
about there.
projectors, but let's go to
Oh.
TVs.
Yep.
Big
'Cause this-
TV war at CES.
Yeah, that kind of went away for a while, didn't it? Now it's back. Who's
Yeah,
got the
so-
biggest?
So Samsung had the biggest.
No, well, the
100
biggest micro RGB, yes. Not
Right. Well, the biggest
overall, but-
TV
Mhm.
overall, and then of course, Micro RGB is one of the new technologies that you will hear, the new buzzword, and all the
Yep.
new models that are going to be coming out in 2026.
Mhm.
And we got to see them. They are. I'll let Chris tell you about Micro RGB and kind of what's coming between
Sure.
Samsung and Hisense, which also had
Mhm.
their largest TV, 116-inch. So,
Yep. So the 130-inch Samsung, I think we were told during the tour was a proof of concept, but then they told us later, no, they intend to bring that model to production at some point.
Yeah.
Maybe not
Yeah.
right away, but they did have a 130-inch, and what makes that impressive is that it all comes from a single piece of mother glass, and we've never seen a TV that big from one piece of mother glass.
Yeah.
Samsung's RGB lit LCD TVs are a little different from Hisense and some others in that they have really, really small LED backlights, right? So they have the red, green, and the blue backlight instead of a white or blue backlight that you find
Right.
in traditional micro LED TVs. And that helps you to generate more colors, but they can reach what's called 100% of the BT 2020 color gamut, which is more than most studios are actually mastering for. So there isn't a lot of content yet that really takes full advantage of that wider color gamut. But when it does come, TVs like the Samsung Micro RGB will be ready for it. We didn't get any pricing on this. If
Yep.
if the 115-inch that they had was 30,000, then I can only imagine what 130-inch is going to cost. Quite a bit more, I think. But what they also were doing is democratizing Micro RGB by bringing it into two lines all the way down to I think it was a 55-inch screen size,
Mhm.
55 or 65. So
Yep.
last year they had one line, couple of models, but one line. This year they'll have two lines, a lot more models, and you will see, I think, a big push for Micro RGB from Samsung this year because it does address some of the limitations of LCD TVs. It has less blooming, less haloing
Right.
because it's got more backlights. If you ask a Samsung person, they say it doesn't have a color filter. And if you ask anybody who knows, then it says it does have a color filter. So I haven't spoken to the engineers there yet, but people who have say that it absolutely has a color filter.
Yeah.
It's hard to generate colors. If you have one backlight that's serving 1,000 pixels, one of those pixels is red, one of them is green.
Right.
How do you make those two different colors from the same backlight without some sort of color filter? And the answer is,
That's true.
no, I don't know. So
Right.
we're going to have a more in-depth briefing, I think, on Micro RGB at some point. If you talk
Right.
to Sony, if you talk to Hisense, if you talk to LG, if you talk to anybody else who has RGB backlit TVs, they do say that, of course, it requires a color filter, but the message from Samsung hasn't been as clear depending on who you talk to. So does that matter? Probably not. I mean,
Right.
it's a great looking TV.
Yeah.
But there are people that care about the technology enough to be curious about how exactly it works. And we're
Right.
some of those people. So I think there's still a little bit of ambiguity, a little bit of uncertainty around it, but the TV itself looks great. And we'll see if it comes to production. 130-inch. They had one on the easel and they had one that was mounted on the wall. And
Right.
they both looked pretty stunning.
Well, I want to talk about TCL because they surprised everybody with a brand new technology of their own called super quantum dot, SQD.
Yep.
And and TCL has never made a TV this good before. So this is every bit ready to take on competition from Sony, Samsung, whoever. It is one of, on paper, the highest performing TV, or at least spec wise, that we've seen so far in 2026. It'll come out
10,000
nits.
Yeah, 5 years
So-
ago they said that was impossible in a consumer TV, and look how far we've come. So while
And-
everybody else is abandoning quantum dots because these RGB backlit TVs don't use a quantum dot layer,
Right.
TCL is embracing quantum dots and even pushing Nanosys or the quantum dot makers to get even better with. I was talking to Caleb, and he had talked to some of the engineers at Nanosys, and they said the difference between the new and the old quantum dots comes down to like half the width of a hydrogen atom. So these are really small dots, very small dots, micro dots, or quantum dot. And
Also-
it wasn't just getting the new quantum dot layer. They had to actually build a completely new color filter for the new quantum dot layer.
That's what I was
And
gonna
that has
say.
to go into the mother glass. So TCL
Yeah.
had to shut down production at one of their fab plants to incorporate the new color filter and the new quantum dots, put the whole thing together. And that's not something that a lot of companies can do. They have their own manufacturing line, CSOT. So what the TCL guys told us is that this is exclusive to TCL for the foreseeable future. I mean, at some point, CSOT may sell these to other companies, but right now, if it says Super Quantum Dots, SQD, it's a TCL TV built by CSOT. And they say they can also reach 100% of BT 2020
Right.
by having these improved quantum dots and the enhanced color filter.
Right.
Again, great looking TV. We'll probably have to see it in person a little bit. I mean, for a little extended period to get an idea of what its shortcomings are, because every TV technology has got something.
Yeah, it's going to come in 75-inch, 85-inch, and 98-inch screen sizes. So it's really impressive that they brought it up all the way to their 98-inch screen size to get top of the line.
And it's already shipping in the two larger sizes.
And do we have the prices on them? I think it was
$69.99 for the 75-inch, $79.99 for the 85-inch, $99.99 for the 98-inch. And people are like, what? $10,000 for a 100-inch TV? Seriously.
It's just-
You couldn't do a 98-inch TV, or if you did, you were paying close to that. Now
Yeah.
they're cutting edge, top of the line, new technology, flagship TV. And guess what? Have you ever seen TCL prices? There's
come
MSRP
down.
that comes out. Black Friday price is going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So I haven't even checked to see if there's any discount on over MSRP yet, but we'll see. We'll see what the actual street price is. It is selling now. You can order this in the 85 or the 98-inch size. I think they're going to be sending me an 85. But it's going to be a heated battle, I think, this year between SQD and RGB. But guess
And
what's
OLED.
still better than both of them?
Right. And OLED too. Don't
OLED.
forget about
Still better.
OLED, because LG's back with their new top of the line OLED, the G6, which we got a pretty good deep dive on, but it's that magical 20% better that it got this year over last year, which was already amazing. So, but this thing gets hyper radiant color technology as its kind of big feature, and it does improve the anti-glare reflective screen while still keeping a glossy effect on the panel. So it's a little bit, it's definitely better than the C6, which was also improved. I'll let Chris talk about like what's going to be a difference between the G6, C6, and the LG OLED line.
Yeah. So a couple of big news items from LG this year in the TV department. They brought back the Wallpaper TV. Wallpaper TV in its first version was unbelievably thin. It looked literally like it was part of the wall, but drawback was everything, the inputs and outputs and speakers were in a separate module that was kind of a bulky soundbar that you had to use with the TV, and it had to go somewhere. So, and you'd see it. So with the new Wallpaper TV, it's still only 9 millimeters thick, which is about a third of an inch. But it has speakers built in. and you don't require that separate soundbar. You do require a separate box for all the connections, but it's wireless. And I think it can be up to like 30 feet away. It handles 4K Dolby Vision at 165 hertz. So the quality is exceptional in terms of its wireless connectivity. And then the box can go anywhere. It can go in a closet, in a cabinet, out of the way, and it'll accept, game console, streaming sticks, tuner, whatever you want to connect to the TV. And the TV itself sits flush against the wall via a very cool mounting system with the recessed mounts. But if you don't mount it on the wall and you have it out into the room, it's got a nice black ebony finish on the back. So it's got a very finished look on both sides. It does have the new anti-reflection premium coating that the G6 has.
Reflection-free premium?
Reflection-free premium. Sorry, everybody's got a different name for it. And what I like about theirs is that while it does reduce light reflections a lot, it still lets the OLED blacks come through. So it's kind of a happy medium between full mirror, which reflects everything, and a matte, which reflects nothing. So I like the way it looks in person. Oh, you're going to skip ahead already?
No, go ahead. Go back.
Yeah,
keep going with LG. Sorry.
So the W6 and the G6 will be the same in picture quality. Should be same panel, same processor, same tech, same screen coating. There will be a premium for the thinness and design of the W6, but LG was telling us it's not going to be a really big premium. Normally in the past, the flagship design, whether it's an M or a W, has always been quite a bit more expensive than the G series. This year, they tell us it's going to be a little bit closer. But another nice thing about the technology, the panel in the G6 and the W6, that tandem RGB 2.0 OLED panel, brand new panel from last year, just introduced. It's going into the C6 too. It's going into the mid-range TV in the 77 and the 83-inch sizes. So they're not going to get the anti-glare screen, the reflection-free premium, but they will get exceptionally high brightness and excellent picture quality in a more affordable panel. So now why they didn't put that in the 65 or the 55, who knows? But
spend
step
more
in the right direction.
Yeah,
Step in the right
spend
direction.
more, get a bigger panel. But certainly the wallpaper TV was one of the talk of CES.
Oh, definitely.
Just because 9mm thin TV.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty incredible technology. But we also have Samsung upgrading their flagship OLED TV. Now they're up to the H series. So if you see an H in a model number, that'll be a 2026 model. Yep. And this is their flagship OLED now with a frame included in it. So this is not the frame TV that we talked about earlier. This is top of the line flagship OLED that can now display art, which surprisingly they figured out how to not have the art burn into the OLED. So this is, and it's got the glare-free, really impressive. If you have windows or lights behind your TV, this panel, this is the only one that will block that reflection.
Yeah, it's interesting. In the photo, you can see the light reflecting off the frame, but not off the TV. It's just completely being absorbed by the actual anti-glare matte screen. Some don't like this because it does raise the black floor a little bit, So, but honestly, I saw the Gen 1 version of it. I wasn't a fan. This Gen 2 version introduced last year and carried over into 2026 I think
this might be Gen 3 because
they didn't say there was any changes in the matte finish year over year. When I asked them.
My anecdotal evidence is Caleb has the 95F version, and from looking at it, he said the new model looks better than at blocking glare. So who knows?
We'll know more, I think, in April when these things actually start shipping and get to play around with them in the QA labs or at the new headquarters. Samsung's got a new headquarters in New Jersey, apparently. Right. So we'll probably give a little visit to that. But I like the changes on the S95H. It's a lot less boring looking. It does look more like a piece of art with the frame. It's not a replaceable frame. It is a fixed frame, unlike the Frame TV, which has a replaceable frame. But it also has all the inputs and outputs built into the TV now. It does not require a separate One Connect box. which I think people like John Siaka weren't fans of because it required additional recessed areas behind the TV to put the box in. But for those who like having a separate connection box, it's got a proprietary port in the back where you can add an adapter, and then it can connect to a wireless One Connect box. So it still has the option of using an external box if you want that. But if you just want to plug in the HDMI cables directly to the TV, you can do that as well.
Right. I mean, this is
and
certainly
2700 nits of brightness with a 10% window.
Yes.
That's really bright for an OLED.
Yeah, that is.
So yeah, this one is Samsung's answer to LG's wallpaper in some sense.
It's thicker, though.
Super thin.
Significantly
It's definitely thicker.
Yeah.
But because of the frame design, it doesn't necessarily look like it's sticking out in any.
Yeah, they both can sit very flush to the wall based on their mounting systems. The wallpaper just is a little thinner, which is funny because it used to be Samsung was really going for that like slim, design look, but they're doing it a little bit different way by giving it an art frame around the TV that makes it blend in better for a high-end house.
But we do have another surprise entrance to the TV market. And I'm not going to be able to pronounce this name right because my German is horrible.
Well, I'm going to probably butcher it too, but I've always called it Loewe. I think that's how you pronounce it. It means lion in German. There's a statue of a wounded lion called Löwendenkmal, and I'm sure I said that wrong. Which is in Europe, and it's a tribute to World War II fallen soldiers. Very expressive look on the lion's face, but that has nothing to do with the Loewe brand, so it's just an aside. Loewe has been in the US. My first HD TV was a Loewe. It was a 38-inch tube back in those days. It weighed a lot. I think I might have gotten a hernia when I moved it, when I finally gave up the ghost. But now they're coming back to the market with a suite of very inspired design, OLED-based TVs, like the one you see here, from 42 all the way up to 97 inches, priced from about $5,000 to $45,000, I believe, is the 97-inch. The larger ones have a motorized frame that can turn back and forth. It's got a very, I would say, Bang & Olufsen kind of look and feel. To attract that higher class of buyers who want something that looks as good when it's off as it does when it's on. And what we're seeing in the photo now is it's actually black lava concrete. That's what the back panel of the smaller TVs is made of. Everyone unique with its own grain structure. Not crazy heavy, apparently, but I mean, certainly heavier than a traditional OLED or LCD TV.
Yeah, certainly you can swivel it. It swivels and all that. And
I don't think it's motorized on the smaller ones, but the larger TVs don't have the concrete back. They just have I think it might be aluminium, as they call it in Europe.
So these are going to be on the expensive side. If you're looking for a budget pick, this is pure luxury. You're paying a premium, but you're getting integrated sound, industrial design off the charts. Yeah. So this is pure luxury TV coming to the US this year with OLED TV technology. So we're excited.
Yeah, and they are LG OLED panels. They say the latest generation OLED panels. They don't get into the detailed, whether it's MLA or tandem RGB. I would say they might be one generation behind because they are building these TVs. They have been building and selling these TVs already. So these are new models to the US, but I believe they have been for sale in Europe already. And I don't know. I guess they probably have models, but maybe they just have screen sizes. It's a Loewe and it's 42-inch. There you go.
Oh, and it goes up to 97-inch for $45,000 dollars for the 97-inch. So if you were upset about the TCL that was 98-inch and 10,000,
but you know what? It's funny coming back to that because the TCL 98-inch has a Bang & Olufsen sound system built in.
Oh, right.
And also in the 75 and the 85-inch. And Hisense, which we haven't talked about too much yet.
Yeah.
Hisense.
We have to go back to Hisense. That's right.
Yeah. Hisense partnered with W6, the French company. And so they've actually got really nice sounding TV speakers these days now, as well as this whole family of soundbars that are all designed in partnership with the French DeViolet high-end audio brand. So
Yeah.
TV companies are partnering with high-end audio companies to address the age-old question of why do my TV speakers sound so bad?
Right. And we do have to talk about Hisense because we didn't bring this up, but they have added a fourth color to their RGB mini LED with a
Backlight.
cyan pixel. So
Yep.
only in their top of the line flagship model that we're looking at is it going to be
Yep.
available. But this is just another one of those TV terms that consumers are going to be bombarded with. Where do I need this extra cyan pixel? What am I missing if I don't?
Well, at least they're
get
not
this
calling
TV?
it RGBC. I think they're calling it RGB Evo, maybe.
I don't know.
I think the Evo term may have been
Yeah, I think
bandied
that's
about in there.
Evo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the cyan pixel, in addition to the blue pixel, well, I shouldn't call them pixels. They're lighting elements because this is not an emissive technology, right? There's still zones of backlights. They say they're able to reproduce shades of green much more realistically, having both the blue and the cyan lighting element. And they also somehow are able to reduce the amount of blue light output from the TV, which can be the most annoying to people, and particularly for extended periods, and particularly for large screen sizes like this. So the added pixel or the added lighting element was added for better color reproduction and also to reduce eye strain. And yeah, it was great looking TV. Didn't hear any sound demos of it while we were there, but it's got the Violet sound system built in. It probably sounds pretty good too.
Yeah, what I found fascinating about this year's CES is it was all top of the line models.
Yeah.
And nobody was really showing you their whole line, which they have shown in previous years. They just showed you their top of the line. And they almost hid their other lines if they were there.
Well, honestly, okay, LG almost never shows the B series at CES, or it certainly doesn't feature it. That usually comes out, that entry level one, later in the year. TCL, I think, are the first ones that have started showing flagships or even not flagships at CES, and then rolling out the introduction of specific models over the course of the year. I mean, we had model introductions from TCL very late in the year last year.
Yes, we
so
did.
it looks like Samsung did that. They didn't really talk about any of their other lines.
Samsung only talked about the flagships.
Again, LG showed the C, the B, and I'm sorry, the C, the G, and the W. But Hisense and TCL were not featuring their more consumer mainstream models. They were really just showing flagships.
And Sony and Panasonic weren't there at all.
They weren't there at all. Yeah.
Right.
Panasonic was unique last year that they had a headphone introduction, those wonderful AZ 100s, which I love so much, and Will actually loved as well. And they had the new flagship TVs on display last year as well. This year, the Panasonic booth was only B2B. It was like solutions for business, not for consumers. So kind of very different from last year, where they had a Techniques presence and they had the TV presence. This year, they shifted a little bit. And Sony was showing their TV, the partnership between Honda with the Afeela, not TV, I'm sorry, car. The Afeela car, which is a partnership with Honda. So going to be able to drive around a Sony car soon. Yeah. Or I don't know the exact pricing, but it's 6 figures, I believe, for the flagship.
I think it's 6 figures. But yeah,
I'm sure it's great. Probably has a hell of a sound system.
I'm excited to hear it. We haven't heard it yet, but that's on our radar of checking out that sound system.
Yeah, and I'm expecting there'll be more product introductions from Sony, maybe in the spring or over the course of the year. They've just chosen to focus on that car as their big flagship product for CES for 2026.
And they've been working on their own RGB system as well.
Yeah, I saw it in Japan a little over a year ago. And that was actually the first one I saw. It was before I saw the Hisense or the Samsung. I don't know when the reintroduction of that's going to be. I expect it'll probably be this spring, but we haven't seen any, not even under NDA, we haven't seen any production models yet or gotten any dates or pricing yet. But yeah, I would expect an RGB backlit Sony TV in 2026 for sure.
And I do want to cover, because there were some new UST projectors that are coming. We have on the screen the Hisense PX4 Pro, which was the upgrade to the PX3 Pro. And we also have a pretty unique looking projector along with a new or now the final version of the released Valerion Max. So we got
The VisionMaster Max. Yeah.
Right. Valerion VisionMaster Max. And I know Chris got to check out all these. So kind of what's coming down the pike for projection
with
technology?
UST projectors, which are the ones that can go right up next to the wall, ultra short throw, right? And like you can see here, it's really only about 8 inches from the wall, and it's creating like a 100-inch plus screen. It's getting a little harder to sell those at higher price points with the TVs getting so large, right? If you can buy a 130-inch TV, what do you need a projector for? Well, a 130-inch TV might be $50,000. We don't know how much it's going to be. It's not going to be cheap. And with a UST, maybe for $2,000 to $3,000, you could generate, let's say, a 150-inch screen. And the nice thing about using a projector is if you get a motorized screen, then when you're not watching TV, it's gone, completely disappear. Forget about artwork. There's nothing there. You could have art behind the screen if you wanted to. So when the TV is not in use, the screen can collapse, and you can use, you don't have this big black or gray rectangle dominating your living space. So there were a few USTs on display there. The PX4 Pro is the one that impressed me most. It's about 500 lumens more or brighter than the PX3 Pro, which did really well at the UST Showdown this year, or 2025. And actually had the highest score at the 2024 UST Showdown at projectorscreen.com, where we looked at, I think, between 8 and 10 of these side by side on all identical content. Hisense invented the laser TV category and UST projectors, and their products just tend to be a lot more mature. Excellent black levels, reduced laser speckling, great shadow detail. So they produce an image that's pretty close to a flat panel TV, particularly if you use one of those screens that focuses the light, a UST specific lenticular screen or Fresnel screen that reduces all the off axis light interference. So kind of similar to what Samsung does with their matte screen. These UST screens can do the same kind of thing, absorb ambient light and concentrate the light forward toward the viewer so that they can reduce a lot of glare.
Yep. And I think you said it, but this new projector will go up to 200 inches. That was the big change over the last generation. That'll go up to 100.
Yeah, the PX3 Pro was rated for up to 150. This is rated for up to 200. You do need a little bit of a light controlled room if you're going to go that large.
But speaking of 200, though, the Valerion VisionMaster Max did have a 200-inch demo at CES with your reclining home theater chairs. And it was just
it was comfortable. It was
immersion.
a nice little place to chill for a while. I think I might have fallen asleep in that chair. It was so this is another trend. And I think Valerion was one of the first to this trend. Maybe they created the trend. Valerion is associated with the AWOL company that also makes projectors, UST
AWOL.
AWOL, yeah. Away Without Leave. I think it came from, well, hey, all you need is our projector and a wall.
Something like that.
That's where it came from.
But
it's a separate brand, and it's called Valerion, and they make what we used to call lifestyle projectors, but calling them a lifestyle projector because they have a nice cabinet and they look,
and they're small, they're compact,
and they're small.
Pick them up. Yeah.
But this year it looks like lifestyle projectors are really trying to take on Sony, JVC, Epson in the home theater projector market. So this thing does, I think it's 3,500 lumens. It's triple laser. It's got a lot of the features you used to only see in home theater projectors, lens shift up and down, left and right, motorized zoom lens, motorized focus. It can be mounted on the ceiling, can be mounted on a shelf, can be mounted on a coffee table. And we did see it at 200 inches, and it looked as good as any movie theater I've been in lately. And they're not the only ones. Hisense has I think it was the XR10.
Yeah, XR10 is coming out.
The same side. That's supposed to have 6,000 lumens. And there's a few other companies that are doing the same kind of thing, a square, lifestyle-looking projector. Don't mind my son in the background. I think we're actually getting delivery of the Marantz brand new preamp processor and amplifier today. Couldn't reschedule. But yeah, exciting. I'll have a lot more to say about that soon. But that was a trend. We did see the Hisense on display. I don't know, the room that it was in didn't impress me as much as the VisionMaster Max did.
Yeah, they had it in a total theater dark environment. But What's
Yes.
fascinating by this is you don't have to center them directly to the screen. Like you could put it off
No.
45-degree angle and
Yeah.
get it to keystone. the
No, it's
square
not Keystone.
picture.
It
Or
is
what's the word?
absolutely not Keystone.
What's the
Keystone
lens
is
shift?
digital and it screws up the resolution.
Okay.
What these have
Let-
is optical lens shift. So
Yes.
it shifts the direction of the light coming through the lens optically so that you still have the full 4K resolution, no matter whether it's up or down or left and right. Home theater projectors have been doing that for ages, but to have it in a smaller form factor of these like lifestyle type projectors is what's new. And that's what a lot of these companies are doing. Now, one of my favorite features, lens memory, which allows you to zoom in for 16:9 and zoom in more for 2.4:1 if you have like a CinemaScope screen. That's not available yet in these, but they said they are going to be, at least Valerion is going to be adding it as a firmware update sometime in the near future.
So I think we covered all of our best in show product winners. We circled back to the front.
Mhm.
And let's kind of wrap up this live stream. We've been talking about it for an hour, 15 minutes now. And hey, Mitch,
Hey.
welcome back.
Hey, thanks.
I know you
I had a
got
quick
to hear some of
question.
this for the first time. So yeah.
Yeah, all of it. I had a quick question about all this new television tech. The first question was, do you know if they got the name, like the adjectives that they use from like car washes, like the different tiers of a car wash? Some of that reminds me of it. I was laughing pretty hard.
Okay.
But on the real, with all this new tech and everything all being kind of brand new, is there an industry standard with like warranty and stuff? Because I mean, it's just
No.
I don't know.
No.
Okay.
Well,
No,
wait,
I
wait.
think most
Yeah.
companies have at least a 90-day, if not a year warranty. I believe LG and maybe Samsung have like a 5-year panel warranty because, there was some people who
okay.
thought there might be burn-in issues with OLEDs.
Right.
So they extended
Sure.
the warranty on the OLED panel itself.
Mhm.
But there's no real standard for that. And that's actually an issue because if you're buying a 98-inch TV and it only lasts 2 or 3 years, what are you
Man.
doing with it? Putting it out on the curb?
It's brutal.
That's a lot of waste. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
hopefully you can find an e-waste recycling place that's going to take it and disassemble it into its parts. But it's turning into a very disposable market, and that
Yeah,
does
because they're
bother
not
me a
really
little bit.
they're not really repairable, right?
Not
For the most
easily.
part? Yeah.
In many cases, I mean, if you're buying on Black Friday a 98-inch TV for $999 and
Mhm.
something goes wrong with it, it's going to cost you $400 or $500 just to get somebody to show up. So
Right. Well, that was
So,
my question.
they are becoming a little bit disposable, a little bit commoditized, and that's sad. I don't like that. Which is why I
Yeah.
love seeing headphones like the Loewe and the T10 Bespoke because they are not throwaway products. You got a
Yeah,
problem,
Yeah,
they
that's
take it
cool.
apart, they replace the component, they send it back to you.
But they
The
are
Wish
on the
TVs were more
price
like that.
side. They are
Sure,
on the
yeah.
luxury side of
Sure, but I just
the
wish
equation.
TVs were more like that. Yeah, sure. If your Loewe TV breaks, you probably will have that fixed at that price.
Right.
But if you're buying a $1,000, $1,500 TV and 5 years later it dies, it's going out at the curb, and that's
Right.
That's a shame.
Well, that was nice to listen to all that. I really enjoyed seeing all those products that weren't on any websites yet. I didn't anticipate.
Well, except
that.
for ours, you can go to eCoustics.com and see the
I was
full
talking about
list.
I was talking about the manufacturer's websites.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
right.
They don't-
Some of them aren't even there
don't-
yet. You can't.
yeah,
even
they don't have
read
their
it.
own-
Yeah.
their own products listed. I think that stuff's
And-
cool.
And the problem is sometimes these products never come out. I mean, we saw a cool
Yeah.
X-Jimmy screen last year. There was a soundbar and screen built together, and it disappeared into the base, and that still hasn't
Oh,
made it
yeah.
into production. So
I remember what you're talking about.
sometimes they are proof of concept. We'll
Mhm.
see when the 130-inch Samsung comes out. Hopefully it'll come out. Hopefully the price won't be obscene.
Yeah.
Um,
We do
Yeah,
want
that is
that.
important.
Yeah, I mean,
to,
it's gorgeous
that's important to
TV.
remember, right? Like
Yeah.
CES is also a debut of tech, not just a product. Sometimes they just got to
Right.
put the tech in a nice, pretty box.
And they have to
Right.
make
Yeah.
that
Yeah, that's cool.
cost
That's a good.
competitively, like, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah,
I
good
mean, I
reminder.
kind of think one of the themes though was kind of a shift towards art and design.
Mm.
That
Yes.
once you hit peak TV technology, you got to do something else, and that's what this cool stand is on the Hisense. They have another wall mount version behind it that you can kind of see.
That's
in the
not a
background.
Hisense, that's a Samsung.
Oh, sorry,
Mhm.
Samsung. Samsung. Too
go
many
that
model numbers.
sponsorship.
Whoa.
Too many model numbers. Do you know how many model numbers we have to memorize and prices?
Too many.
Oh yeah.
God,
That looks
yeah.
crazy. I didn't realize that was like the television frame.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it
some
kind
reason-
of tilts.
they've used that
tilts.
easel type stand in the past, but
Yeah.
they wanted to showcase it in two different versions, one in the easel stand and one that's up on the wall. That's kind of a layered look with a wood frame behind it.
Yeah, it's almost like
Definitely would
you could put
recommend
a-
you find the studs for those. You should put those in
If you-
hollow wall anchors. It might be something better.
Yeah,
about
that one looks like if you were to put an image of like a park bench swing on it, you'd like break a lot of screens. Looks just
Yeah.
like that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty cool
Yeah.
to see all this stuff though.
I mean, now that I'm looking at this one, I'm like, okay, where's the sound? Where's the power plug? Where is some of the
Yeah.
other stuff that goes with this TV? So
Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, and not only that, but all the TVs, I mean, they all look great. I mean,
Mm,
you kind of, I would say the things that would to check would be things like, well, how wide of a viewing angle does it have? You know,
Mhm.
some of the more supportive type things in addition to the technology. But you could buy any one of these TVs and have a great TV.
Yeah, I think that was
Oh.
Brian's point is
Yeah.
you know, as much as we love to agonize over the details, and there definitely are
Yeah.
performance differences among these TVs. You could go in and buy a, $800 TV these days and have something that creates an
Yeah.
incredibly good looking image on, most of the time.
Right.
And so at this point, Samsung's
Right.
always been about style and differentiating, lifestyle use, ergonomics, et cetera. And they're leaning heavily into that. And I think the other brands are as well by the use of AI. Gemini is coming to a lot of the
Oh,
TVs.
yeah.
AI is being used to enhance the
God.
picture processing. So yeah, I think a lot of it is ease of use, ergonomics, and aesthetic design. And the best example of that, I think, is the new OLED. OLED was always a performance TV,
Right.
bland styling, but beautiful picture. Now they've put a frame around it, the matte screen, and they've turned it into a more living room friendly, piece of art when it's not on.
When does
Yeah,
the
the-
industry start shifting away from like the thinner, how thin and how big can we get this to then it just shifting to things that you wear on your face or you install in your retina?
Oh, it's coming.
Like how far off but realistically, how far
We-
off are we?
We did see a bunch of smart glasses there too.
Yeah,
You can have
yeah.
the equivalent of a 200-inch screen by looking into a pair of glasses. I don't know.
That's what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah.
I don't
But it's
get
around the
into that.
corner.
Retinal
It's
implants, maybe. Yeah, brain implants, neuro
Yep.
implants.
We'll be
Yep.
here to cover it, right, Brian?
That's right. Yeah, every year it's right around the corner. It's just right
Yeah.
there, and then it
Yeah.
just
Exactly.
extends out just a little bit more.
Nice coverage, guys.
Thanks.
Year
Mhm.
after year. So no, this has been fun. This is our first live stream in a number of years, and it was good to kind of get into that rotation. It was I appreciate, Mitch, the background, the websites that you were able to pull up. I think that's a big help. I think when
fun.
we do this next time, though, we'll have more things we could show simultaneously because there were so many
Yeah.
products that are still not on the company website yet. So
Right.
we certainly want you to check out our coverage of eCoustics.com.
Oh yes.
Get all of the best in show winners, prices, links, all of our thoughts from that. And yeah, if you joined us late, this recording will stay up for future reference, and you could check back to find out all the best in show winners. And as always, we want you to like, subscribe, comment, share. You can even email us. You don't have to do it on YouTube.
Oh, they can
we
also
like-
hype the video. There's a new hype feature.
Oh, there's a
wow.
hype
Yeah.
feature.
Okay.
Okay.
Stealing that from
That's
Twitch.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been the best of CES 2026 eCoustics live stream. Hope to see everyone next time.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.